Hey guys, King of Charmanders here, and today I bring to you the best Nergigante weapon builds, all weapon types, and the new dragon meta. So this video features the best builds using the Nergigante weapons. Now Nergigante weapons are the strongest dragon elemental weapons in the game. That's as far as sheer damage goes though. However, Devil Joe may be better depending on what unique skills you get. So Devil Joe weapons get a unique skill depending on their weapon type. So depending on what it is, it can and may be better. But if we're just talking about sheer damage, Nergigante weapons are the dragon meta. And here's a big disclaimer. Elder dragon weapons are extremely expensive and time consuming. As a content creator with an actual grade 10.5 Elder dragon weapon, consider your resources before you decide to max one out. I know I'm the only one that has one and has grinded for one. I can tell you it takes a lot of time and resources. So don't listen to someone that doesn't have one. It's not as easy as it looks. If you're going after Nergigante, you're going to have to kill a lot of Nergigante and it's going to take a whole lot of time before you're going to get a 10.5 weapon, even if you do happen to get lucky. First, we're going to start off with the top 5 Nergigante weapon melee builds. And here we compare the top 5 builds of the Nergigante melee weapons. Now the top build uses Fighting Spirit level 2, and the next build that does not use a conditional skill like Resuscitate and Fighting Spirit and is more consistent is Critical Element level 3. However, overall there is little difference between the top 5 builds, literally less than 6% between all of them. So you can be picky or choosy as much as you want, however as far as the most consistent one goes, it still does a whole lot of damage, and you're not going to really notice the difference between them. And this brings us to the best Nergigante melee build, starting with number 1, the Bubble Dance / Resuscitate build. And this build does a theoretical practical damage overall at 4,107. Lock-on is provided by the Gold Rotting Coil and Coral Puke helmet, so you're double dipping as far as lock-on goes for this one, and it doesn't give you anything more. And it's not consistent due to its reliance on the Bubbly Dance / Resuscitate mechanic. However, if you want to use it, theoretically it still is pretty dang good. If you want to use it, you need a Nergigante melee weapon at grade 8 or grade 10 or as high as you can get it. The Coral Puke helmet at grade 8. The Mizutsune mail at grade 6. The Mizutsune Vambraces at grade 6. The Gold Rotting Coil at grade 8. And the Mizutsune Greaves at grade 6. Next up, we have the best Nergigante melee build, number 2, and it uses Critical Element level 3. This is the new standard 4 elemental attack skills, and this build does a theoretical practical damage overall at 3,960. Lock-on is provided by the Carnival 2024 mail. And this build provides 50% affinity when attacking weak spots and 30% when you aren't attacking weak spots. You can use the Odor Garen Helm in the place of the mail, but you lose lock-on, so technically you can't do that. But if you want to use this build, you need the Nergigante melee weapons at grade 8 or grade 10 or as high as you can get it. The Silver Rathalos helmet at grade 8, Carnival 2024 mail at grade 8, the Azarathalos Vambraces at grade 6, Pink Rotting Coil at grade 6, and the Silver Rathalos Greaves at grade 8. And lastly, for the best Nergigante melee builds at number 3, we have the build that utilizes Elemental Attack level 5. So it's still really good. However, the thing is, you do need 2 Devil Joe pieces as well as the Pink Rotting subspecies pieces, and you need 2 of them. But if you do want to use it, this build does have a theoretical practical damage of 3,866, with lock-on being provided by the Coral Puke helm. Now the thing is, like I mentioned before, Elemental Attack level 5 still works, only being a bit weaker than the other top builds. However, like I mentioned, it isn't exactly a walk in the park to get the pieces you need for this build. But if you do have the OG Elemental Attack 5 build, you don't really need to change it. To use this build, you need the Nergigante melee weapons at grade 8 or grade 10 or as high as you can get it. The Pink Rotting mail at grade 6, the Devil Joe Vambraces at grade 6, Devil Joe Coil at grade 6, and the Pink Rotting Greaves at grade 6. Moving on, we have the ranged weapons, starting out with the light bowgun. And here we have the top 5 Nergigante light bowgun builds. So when you compare them, the top build that doesn't use Fighting Spirit has an awkward combination of latent power level 1 and critical element level 1. Conditional skills aren't consistent and it's barely stronger than the rest of the builds, which is about a 6% difference overall if you look at it. And it also has reload speed and recoil down maxed out to maximize DPS. So again, not too much of a difference between all these. 6% is barely a thing. But again, latent power level 1 and critical element level 1 is a pretty weird combo. And that moves us to the best Nergigante light bowgun build, starting with number 1. a build that uses a combination of critical eye / weakness exploit along with critical element. And this build does a theoretical practical damage without latent power / fighting spirit at 3,325. And as with all light bowguns, it uses reload speed and recoil down level 3 to max out your DPS. Weirdly enough, Kuluyaku Helm is in a top build. I know it's really strange, I ran a whole bunch of other different combos, but this one just takes the cake and it's really weird. But it makes sense because of crit, and that's just the way it goes when it comes to light bowguns. Because of the fact that you can't really get Dragon Attack 5 or Critical Element, etc. Like a good combination of them, so it's going to be really weird. For this build, you need the Nergigante Light Bowgun at grade 8 or at grade 10 or as high as you can get it. The Kuluyaku Helmet at grade 6. The Paluma Mill at grade 6, Legion of Ambraces at grade 6, Coral Puke Coil at grade 6, and the Silver Rathalos Greaves at grade 8. Next up, you have the best Nergigante Light Bowgun build at number 2, where the build uses a combination of weakness exploit along with critical element. This build does a theoretical practical damage without latent power / fighting spirit at 3,304, and it uses reload speed and recoil down level 3 to max DPS. This relies you on attacking weak spots. This literally just replaces the Coral Puke helmet with the Kuluyaku helmet. So this is number 1 but with the different helmet. But it relies on you attacking weak spots. So number 1 is definitely the better option, but if you have these and you just want to use it already, you need the Nergigante Light Bowgun at grade 8 or at grade 10 or as high as you can get it. The Coral Puke helmet at grade 8, the Paluma Mill at grade 6, Legion of Ambraces at grade 6, the Coral Puke Coil at grade 6, and the Silver Rathalos Greaves at grade 8. Moving on, now that we covered the light bowgun, we have the heavy bowgun, and we cover the top 5 Nergigante heavy bowgun builds. Now the top build that doesn't use fighting spirit has an awkward combination of latent power level 1 and critical element level 1. If you've noticed and you look at the data, it's basically the same as light bowgun, which is really weird, but it makes sense for Nergigante just because dragon is an incredibly weird element. And conditional skills aren't consistent and barely stronger than the rest of the builds, about a 5% difference. So yeah, it does more damage, then the gap lowers in comparison to the light bowgun when you look at the top 5 builds. And the Nergigante light heavy bowgun standard has reload speed and recoil down maxed out to maximize DPS. Unfortunately, there's no special one where you could go reload, recoil down level 1 and then reload speed level 3. Nope, all must be at level 3 to maximize your damage with the Nergigante heavy bowgun. And this brings us to the best Nergigante heavy bowgun build, number 1. These are literally the same as the light bowgun, so if you want to skip this portion, that's fine, but if you really want to go over it, this build uses a combination of critical eye / weakness exploit along with critical element. And this build does a theoretical practical damage of 3,840 without latent power / fighting spirit. And it uses reload speed and recoil down level 3 to maximize DPS. Now this uses the crit to do maximum damage with spread ammo, as sticky ammo explosions don't account for crit damage. Unfortunately, even though you have 4 of these, that crit percentage boost isn't going to matter with sticky. However, for spread it will. So that's the reason why this is so powerful, because again of the spread ammo. To use this build, you need the Nergigante heavy bowgun at grade 8 or grade 10 or as high as you can get it, the Kuluyaku helmet at grade 6, the Paluma Mill at grade 6, the Legion of Ambraces at grade 6, the Coral Puke Coil at grade 6, and the Silver Rathalos Greaves at grade 8. Next up, you have the best Nergigante heavy bowgun build, number 2, and if you notice, it's the same as the light bowgun. But if you really want to go into it, this build uses a combination of weakness exploit along with critical element. And this build does a theoretical practical damage without latent power / fighting spirit at 3,816. Now you must hit weak spots to do maximum damage, but sticky ammo explosions also ignore crit. So you're going to be relying most on spread, just like I explained in the last build. To use this build, you need the Nergigante heavy bowgun at grade 8 or grade 10 or as high as you can get it, the Coral Puke helmet at grade 6, the Paluma Mill at grade 6, the Legion of Ambraces at grade 6, the Coral Puke Coil at grade 6, and the Silver Rathalos Greaves at grade 8. And last but not least, for the last ranged weapon, we have the bow. And here we compare the top 5 builds of the Nergigante bow. Now the top build that doesn't use fighting spirit / latent power uses critical eye and burst level 2. Conditional skills again aren't consistent and they're barely stronger than the rest of the builds. Which you look at it, it's about a 3% difference. Now the Nergigante Bow is a super weapon with a charge level 3 and damage level 4 shot type, so it is the reason why you see its numbers are so dang big and it's so powerful. And it is factually the new dragon bow meta, or just the strongest dragon weapon in the game as you know it. However, if you look over here, the whole burst level 2 thing actually isn't surprising. Dragon just doesn't have a lot of flexibility, nor does critical element to support the power of the Nergigante Bow build. So, if you're looking at it, yes, it makes sense that burst level 2 and latent power 2 or critical eye level 2 is a weird combination, but it's why the best when you're not taking your smelting into account for the Nergigante Bow. Moving on, we have the best Nergigante Bow build at number 1, and this build uses latent power level 2. Now this build does the most theoretical practical damage without fighting spirit at 5,201. However, this build requires latent power level 2 to activate to be consistent. It also has focus level 5 thanks to the Azaratlos helm and the Referral Code. To use this build, you need the Nergigante Bow at grade 8 or at grade 10 or as high as you can get it, the Azaratlos helmet at grade 6, the Devil Joe Mail at grade 6, Rathian Van Braces at grade 6, Referral Code at grade 8, and the Silverathlos Greaves at grade 8. Up next, the best Nergigante Bow build number 2. We have the build that uses critical eye / burst. And this build is the second most theoretical practical damage without latent power at 5,176. You can use the Carnival 2024 mail in place of the Odogaron mail if you want to. Technically, the Carnival 2024 one is cheaper if you don't already have the Odogaron mail at grade 6, but that also if you're going to buy the global ticket or not. I'm assuming if you're watching this video, you're going to buy the global ticket. It also has focus level 5 thanks to the Azaratlos helm and the Referral Code. For this build, you need the Nergigante Bow at grade 8 or at grade 10 or as high as you can get it, the Azaratlos helmet at grade 6, the Odogaron mail at grade 6, Rathian Van Braces at grade 6, the Referral Code at grade 8, and the Silverathlos Greaves at grade 8.
黒金の暴流よ、現世の狭間を閉ざす砂上を破り、我が敵に滅びをもたらせ。現れろ、破滅竜ガンドラクロス。
That entrance is pretty cool. You know, the black and steel dragon of destruction. Well, not black and steel, more like black with spikes. But Nergigante is the Elder Dragon Eater, and it's going to be very painful for all of you. Not gonna lie, it's gonna be kind of easier for me because of having beaten 21 8 stars across Shibuya. But you guys are gonna have an advantage because I'll have that guide out there. But hopefully this build helps you with what Nergigante build you are looking to go after. Remember, Elder Dragon weapons are time consuming and expensive. I say this a lot because it really is. Your first time going after one, well, it's going to take a whole lot of time. Not only that, you have 2 days to maximize as many Elder Dragon Nergigante 8 stars you can, or decide which weapon you want to go after. However, if you did play the Shibuya event, you're probably either one, trying to finish your Silverathlos weapon, your gold Rathian armor, whatever you're going after, and going after Nergigante, maybe. But if you actually have a grade 10.5 Elder Dragon weapon, you shouldn't sweat it because you already have experience. If you don't, well, it's going to be terrible, and try not to give advice to anybody because while you say that you might know what the grind is like, you actually don't, and it's very painful, especially for the global event. But actually, I'm driving this time around, so it's arguably better than walking around in Shibuya. But please do me a huge favor, like, subscribe, and comment for the YouTube algorithm. Good luck on your grinds, good luck on your global event, and remember, Nergigante will come back in the future without any paid ticket events, so don't worry about that. And I will see y'all on the next video.